we got an old country pit, Pecos, on Facebook for very, very cheap, and so it was time for me to get it cleaned up, get it seasoned up, and I want to walk you through the process of how we do it, and we'll go ahead and get our first cook done on it today. Stay tuned. We're going to show you how we make it look like this turn to this right here on Brisket Medic. I like to start on the cook chamber side and just open it up, and because this does slide out, we'll go ahead and just knock this thing that's loose off of here. As we go through this, you'll see as I'm scraping, there's seasoning there, food particles, but also a little bit of surface rust. And I'll show you how we're going to use that white vinegar. We'll go ahead and treat some of that so that this will last a long, long time for us. At this point, when we have most of it all scraped up, I'm just going to go ahead and take my hands and scoop the biggest majority of it out.
Quite a bit of stuff like that. And I've got a disposable can sitting underneath the drip hole, and I'll just throw this in there for now.
Now I want you to notice here in the smokestack there's actually quite a bit of buildup residue, and just get you a handful and pull it out. It's really important to do that here because that's where the rain falls in and collects, and the past owner had this and they left it outside quite a bit, and most of that damage that we see here from the rust, the surface rust and everything else is from neglect being left outside and uncleaned in between cooks, not because he used it very often. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut this grate down, and I'm going to follow up and do the same exact thing with a wire brush that I just did with our scraper, and go back through, scoop it all back out just as before. Then we'll move to the inside of the firebox and see how bad it is. So that cleaned up really well. We're going to go ahead and pull the grate out, brush off the underside, and start doing underneath the cooking grates as well. So our next step on this side would be to flush it with a little bit of water. But I want to go ahead and take a look at this firebox first before we do anything like that, because as soon as we flush it with water, we're going to treat everything with a little bit of vinegar. This needs some vinegar on the deflector plate. The bottom has just a slight bit of surface rust, and I'd rather just hit it all at the same time so that that process takes place all together. So, close this bad boy down, go to the firebox. And here at the Firebox, you see that we have our shelf, quite a bit of surface rust on top, and they did a good job of keeping it from the main chamber. Got a little bird poop there, but inside you see that surface rust does continue to be the theme. Now, I'm not really worried about hitting this part too much, because I'm actually going to be using this for my charcoal grate and not for cooking on, as one would assume. So I'm actually just going to take that off, knock all the big stuff off of it, and call it good. For this, we're just going to open this door, because really the biggest enemy of your smoker is charcoal dust. It'll damage the smoker faster than rain and leaving it outside. They've done this quite a bit. I can tell they've probably left charcoal dust and ashes in there every cook. So I'm just going to go ahead and knock off everything with the wire brush. Really not a ton of grease on this side, so we're just going to hit it with a wire brush. Yeah. Now that we've got that sprayed off really well, we're going to let it tilt over and drain out of the drain hole, and all those big particles will hopefully spill out of there at that point. And we're just going to leave it alone for a while to let it dry. So this has been out here getting nice and dry for about an hour now. I'm going to take an old rag, it's already got some stains on it, and I'm going to wipe it down just to make sure we don't have any moisture left on the surface, and get it ready to go ahead and spray for vinegar. We're using just standard distilled white vinegar, nothing else, nothing fancy, and we're just going to get a nice little layer over everything. Now, we don't want to pour out the whole bottle on it, but anywhere it's got a little surface rust, you just put a little dash of it on there and let it do its magic. And that's why it was so important that we did get the grease off and everything like that, because this really isn't going to do well on a greasy surface. It's not going to stick well to it. So and you can already see it reacting with the rust in the Firebox. It's pretty awesome. It reacts pretty quickly as it starts etching into that damaged metal. We're going to let this dry, and we'll come back as soon as it's dried up. After your vinegar dries, you want to go ahead and wipe everything down with a towel. Make sure you use an old towel. Don't use Mama's Good towels, but wipe everything down with a towel. And then if there's any stubborn grease spots or anything like that, I like to hit it with just a citrus-based degreaser and cleaner. And I'm actually going to take my scraper and get after some of those flaky spots in the rust on the Firebox, just so when we season everything, I can season it all at the same time and kind of put a protective layer on that to help prolong the life of this smoker. So let's get it wiped down, get some of those stubborn things off with this degreaser, and we'll get ready to start seasoning it up. Now that we have everything dried, degreased, the vinegar on there to stop that rust corrosion, scraped off all of the major rust areas, flaked it all off, banged it in the big areas where there was a lot of rust, we went ahead and tapped it and scraped it off and really made sure that the active rust was taken off, so that now where we're at the part of seasoning, we can go ahead and protect this smoker and season it at the same time. What we're going to do is go ahead and get some high flash point oil, canola oil, pecan oil, something like that. Works really, really well. Let's go ahead and get it generously coated inside and out, and then start our fire. When you have a good amount of oil, and I mean a good amount of oil on the exterior and the interior of your smoker, let it set for just a few minutes while you start up your chimney of charcoal. And what I like to do just to do a seasoning is light up a full chimney of lump charcoal, get it nice and hot, and then throw a couple of flavored wood chunks of my choice, either pecan or hickory, whatever you choose, and let it burn in for about an hour, hour and a half, and get everything nice and seasoned that way. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this get all burned in and seasoned up and set up, and then we're going to throw some chicken thighs on there and get those cooked up as our first cook on our Old Country Pecos smoker. We've seasoned, we've cleaned, we've stopped the rust corrosion on our Old Country Pecos, and now it is time for us to prep up some chicken and get it thrown onto the smoker. Now, the way I'm going to do this is just a simple prep, and then I'm going to ball it up. It's just skinless, boneless chicken thighs, and I'm going to ball it up and put it in random places on the griddle or the grill to see where our hot spots are. I know I could do this with thermometers, but you can't exactly eat those, and this is going to be a lot more fun and delicious. So I'm going to get some boneless, skinless chicken thighs loaded up with some Suckle Busters chicken dust, and we'll throw it onto the smoker with a little bit of hickory chips. I don't have any splits or logs. Huge fail. We're going to be doing some very simple boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and all I like to do is, I'm not even going to trim these, got them fresh out of the package, and open them up just a little bit and throw some of this Suckle Busters clucker dust on there. It's a chicken rub that they have over at Suckle Busters, and it's very, very delicious. And I like to open them up, and I'm just going to hit them with a little bit of dust, and then I'll close them over and do the same on the top. This isn't really a cooking video, so I'm not going to give you a whole lot of explanation of what I'm doing. I just want to use these little balls of chicken to know what's going on in my smoker, figure out what hot spots are, maybe what modifications I need to make, and all those good things like that. These suckers have been sweating in for a little while, and our smoker's up to 250 degrees according to this gauge, and we'll see how well that does. Not really compared to any other gauges, but just how well I think it does compared to what I'm used to cooking chicken at. So we're going to go ahead and throw our chicken on these well-seasoned grates in different places to measure and see how much heat diffusion is going on in our smoker. Now, it's not going to be completely accurate because some of these are quite a bit bigger than the others, but I know that it's going to be hotter on the far right and the far left, closest to the firebox and closest to the exhaust. So I did put the largest chicken thighs there, but we're going to let those sit for about 45 minutes or so, and when I come out to stoke the fire, I'm going to go ahead and butter these up and check and see how done they are. They look like they have a pretty good even finish all the way across the board. maybe a little more back here, even though they're bigger, and the backside maybe a little bit more. Again, I think that has to do with the way that things are flowing through here as far as airflow. I think a smokestack extension will help that, and I'll be sure to be getting that on very, very soon. I'll also be buying a couple of thermometers to go at the appropriate height on the rack to make sure that we're monitoring everything correctly and accurately. It's just a little butter, Worcestershire sauce, water, and some seasoning, just to ensure that they don't dry out too much. These have been on for about an hour and a half at 225 degrees. So we're going to take our Inkbird instant read thermometer and we're going to probe each one to see which one is done or getting close to done, or which one's the hottest to the least hot spot in the smoker. As it is, just stock. Come on. Like I said, these have been on for a little over an hour and a half. We're going to go ahead and baste these just a little bit, give them drying out, and see where our hot spots are on this grill in the stock settings. I have a feeling that just by the look of them, that back side is a little hotter than the front side, and the center is a little hotter than everything else. So I have a feeling these two back here are going to be a little more done than all the rest of them. But we shall see as soon as we use our Inkbird instant read thermometer that I have a link to for Amazon for you to purchase. Right now there's a flash sale going on, and you can go ahead and take advantage of that. So we're going to start from the Firebox front side and work our way towards the smokestack. $141, $157, $152, $148, back row, $147, $142, $151, $147. So the back row is fairly even. It looks like we have a hot spot right here. These two being done more than any of them. So we're going to go ahead and leave them on for another 30 minutes or so and see how well they even out. And now we have probed these all, and they're all within safe food eating temperatures, and this side over here being approximately about 10 to 15 degrees hotter than this side over here. Now that doesn't mean that the grill itself is exactly that much different, but it's probably a little bit more because the food is that much different. Now these little guys in the middle, they got done a lot faster, they cooked a lot hotter than these other ones. Needless to say, I think a smokestack mod is going to be needed, along with maybe a heat plate. But if the smokestack mod is the right size, we won't need a heat plate, and we can get away with just using that stovepipe. So stick around and see what we do else with this particular model of the Old Country smokers. Pecos, we're going to be adding some thermometers and a smokestack and all that good stuff very, very soon. Thank you so much. This is Brisket Medic. I love you. See ya.